Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online divorce mediation and valuation services in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we will discuss expert witness integrity and neutrality in litigation with Zachary Meyers, a CVA and CPA in Winfield, West Virginia. He's testified and been qualified as an expert in the forensic accounting, taxation, business valuation, pension valuation fields specific to civil, marital, and criminal litigation. I just want to reiterate a little bit. You did mention it, but I think people don't understand because they get in these situations of litigation, either partner disputes or divorce, and they get these two experts, right? And attorneys see it way more, but they get an expert that looks at the same information, and one says it's worth 5 million and one says it's worth 500,000, right? Maybe it's not that big. I'm exaggerating, but you have a huge discrepancy. And so then they're like, wait, how is it possible that these two people have completely different valuations? Well, you mentioned it, but what is the true responsibility of a valuation expert in a litigation setting? Like, why are we really there? Because I think sometimes we forget.
We're really there to assist the court in understanding the facts and the evidence. You have to be helpful to the court. If you're not helpful, the court will just ignore whatever you have to say. But you're there for the court, generally. I mean, that's the user, the decision maker, the person who's going to take whatever your opinion or your expert, testimony says. You're going to take that and have to make another decision, usually answering some sort of statutory requirement. They may have to look at two experts that both have, competing valuations, and they have to determine which one has more weight, or, if they have to adjust, a lot of times you see them, I don't know how else to say it, split the baby. They're going to be using your testimony. And a lot of times, you're right, experts get sidetracked and they start to become more advocate oriented, and that's the lawyer's job. I mean, lawyers they have an ethical duty to advocate for their client. That's not the expert's role. The expert, whether they're hired by one side or both sides or, appointed, they are there to assist the court, period. And the more we, you see it, it's not easy to not be advocate oriented because, you have this sort of financial relationship with somebody who's paying you a retainer, paying you your hourly rate maybe, and just I think the adversarial sort of nature of litigation in and of itself can sometimes even facilitate the advocacy that you see sometimes, but that's not what an expert is supposed to do. An expert is supposed to be unimpeachably neutral, unbiased, no matter who's paying them or who hired them, or if nobody's hired them. You have to be unimpeachably neutral in both actuality and in appearance. I've seen people that they appear to be unimpeachably neutral, but they're really not, and they're not convinced. And I've seen people that are trying to be and really are unimpeachably neutral, but they don't convince the court or whoever matters that they are. And so it's a sort of double-edged sword. You have to be unimpeachably neutral to assist the court, and you also got to convince the court that you're being that way. Sometimes it doesn't come across clearly.
Well, and I think that, it gets to be confusing because everybody gets emotional. We're in an emotional situation. If you're going to court for any capacity, there's emotions involved. And everybody wants to treat it like a negotiation, right? Well, if you come in and you work for me, so if you come in high and they come in low and we come in the middle, that's probably where we want to be. When in the reality is that, and you talked about being a joint expert, right? So a lot of times when we're joint experts, they're like, well, what happens if one party doesn't like it or not? And I say, we're still going to go to court. We're still going to take it to court because the value that we're providing, we believe in and we think it's justified. And I think it does, as an expert, you have to kind of step outside of all the emotions of the clients and the attorneys, because they all do, again, they're weaving a story.